I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I call the meeting of the Fairfield Town Council to order. The first order of business is to swear in the new councillors. If John Picciotti and Peter Lawrence would come forward, please. Stand here before me. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and this state so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge to the best of your abilities duties incumbent on you as town councillor according to the Constitution and laws of this state, so help you God? All right. Yes. We'll go over here and you guys can sign. John, right here. We'll take care of all the fine details later. Thank you, John. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Courtney, you're going to wield some power up there.
She's like, yes! The second order of business is to accept nominations for chair. Do I hear a nomination?
I nominate John Picciotti as chair.
I nominate Aaron Rowden.
I need a second first, excuse me. Is there a second for John Picciotti? No second? Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Aaron Rowden.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Do I have a motion to cease nominations? Second?
A second.
All those in favor of Aaron Rowden as chair, please signify by raising your hand. 4 with Aaron abstaining.
Abstain.
Aaron Rowden has been elected as chair. Would the chair prefer to take over the meeting at this time or have me continue with the nominations?
I'll take over the meeting at this time. Thank you.
On trade secrets.
The gavel, sir.
Thank you very much.
And we are changing, here's your cheat sheet.
Got it somewhere.
Right, John, can I steal that from you?
Here we go.
Which one, John?
No. Thank you. We're going to replace that word with elected, not nominated.
All right.
Thank you.
There you go. The third order of business is to accept nominations for vice chair. Do I hear a nomination?
I nominate Beverly Busk for vice chair.
Is there a second?
A second.
And are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, is there a motion to close nominations?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
And all in favor of the nominations are now closed. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of Beverly Busk as vice chair, please signify by raising your hand.
I abstain.
And I'll vote in favor. And one abstention. So Beverly Busk has been elected as vice chair. The fourth order of business is to accept nominations for secretary. Do I hear any nominations for secretary?
Nominate Courtney Chandler.
Second.
There's a nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, is there a motion to cease nomination?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Nominations are now closed. All those in favor of Courtney Chandler as chair, please signify by raising your hand.
Secretary.
Secretary, sorry. It says chair on this piece of paper. I'd be better off if I made it up as I went along.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's 4. Any opposed? And any abstentions? 1 abstention. And so Courtney Chandler has been elected as secretary. We will now turn to our first order of business on the agenda, which is public announcements. The town office and all non-emergency services will be closed on Monday, January 21st, in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Our second announcement is the 2016-2017 property tax lien foreclosure date is January 18th. Taxes must be paid by 4:30 p.m. Our second order of business is public hearings. There are no public hearings on today's agenda. We'll move to our third order of business, which is public comments. Members of the public may speak to the council on any item or reserve the right to speak on a specific item that is on the meeting agenda when the item is addressed. I will note there is, according to council policy, a 3-minute time limit on public comments. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move on to the fourth order of business, reports from staff and committees. Our town manager report.
So because of the holiday, it's brief since your last meeting. However, the Economic and Community Development Committee did meet this past Tuesday. They are working on various different projects for the year, a lot of discussion regarding potentials for increasing our playground equipment. We will also be attending the B2B this year at Colby in March. We will again go forward and emphasize not only our marketing and facade program, but as well as all of our TIF districts. So hopefully that will be a good piece. Also this Tuesday, I did meet with our Colby intern. She's going to get started on doing the financial analysis for us on streetlights. She's been given a wealth of information, stacks and stacks actually, so to get started on that calculation. So that's going to be interesting, and she will be attending your next meeting to address council to let you know about the progress that she's made and to entertain any questions that you may have as she goes forward. She does need to be done with a jam plan. They need to be done by the end of January, so we have a limited amount of time for this. And then also this morning, I attended the Central Bank Growth Council's Board of Directors meeting. We actually held that at the Commons down on Main Street, which is actually my first time being in the dorm building, so that was interesting. But that is it for me. Everything else has been all about budget.
And do we have any committee reports?
None other than that Economic and Community Development Committee. Nothing other than that.
So seeing no other reports, we'll move on to our fifth order of business. To waive the reading of and accept the minutes as printed or amended, well, I guess it's as printed for meeting number 2018-22 held on December 26th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of approving the minutes? And any opposed? And 1 abstention. The minutes are approved. The sixth order of business is to approve the treasurer's warrant, number 41, in the amount of $579,758.55.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And any opposed or any abstentions? Seeing none, it's unanimous. The seventh order of business is to take action on the following items as read by the council chair. And this will be this is our annual organizational meeting business items. So this is officially item number 19-01. There are a number of parts to this item that I will read out, and then we can decide how we'll proceed. 1, set the dates and times of the council meetings to be held in 2019. I think we'll proceed by dividing this question if there's no objection. So we'll start with part 1, setting dates and times. Do I have a motion to set dates and times for the council meetings?
So moved.
Second.
What dates and times would you propose?
The same as it has been going, as far as I'm concerned.
So-
Second and fourth Wednesday of the month.
So there's a motion and presumably a second for meetings to be held on the second and fourth Wednesday of each month at 6:30 PM.
Yes.
Yep.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? All right, that carries. Item part 2 is to set the time and location of the annual town meeting to be held per charter on the second Monday of May. Yes.
On the calendar, you didn't discuss on the meetings any exceptions, and you have some months.
exceptions.
One of the council meetings is on Christmas, the
Yeah,
second and
just-
fourth, as well as in November, the second Wednesday of the month is the night before Thanksgiving, which has sometimes been an item to discuss.
Without objection, unless there is an objection, I'm going to reopen part 1 of item 1901 for discussion. How do we want to handle the scheduling issues?
Michelle, was it August 13th?
So I have a couple of things for you. One, you can keep your November schedule and know that as November gets closer, we can determine whether or not we schedule just one meeting in November, as we've done before in the past. With December, I would definitely suggest just a one meeting on the 18th, but know that there will be 2 warrants that will need to be signed throughout the course of that month. They will actually be the Friday before, which would be on the 13th, and we'll have one Friday, the 27th. So we'd need at least 3 signatures for a warrant, because it's end of year, and by doing just one in December, it makes it difficult for us to make our bill payments without us getting to the point where we start incurring late fees or interest or stuff. So that would be my suggestion for December. December is usually a relatively light month for us anyway, because you have new council coming on board in January, and we've always left it that if should something come up, we would simply contact the chair and do a meeting that needed to be done. But you could wait and hold off on your November if you wanted to see if we needed to do the 2. Sometimes November's really busy because we're trying to get stuff done because we know December's going to be light. So that's my only feedback for you. But I wouldn't recommend that you meet on December 25th. That's one big one.
I will entertain any amendments to Beverly's motion with respect to the dates and times of the council meetings, if anyone wants to propose them.
I think that we should definitely keep just one meeting in December, and I like the idea of leaving it open for now about November.
Yep.
So
I'm in agreement with that as well.
I propose that we have one meeting in December and leave everything else as is, amending her original amendment, her motion.
So I will restate the motion then for clarity, and then if there's no objection, I'll put it to another vote. We will meet on the second and fourth Wednesday of each month at 6:30 p.m., except that in the month of December, we will meet once on December 18th at 6:30 p.m., and we will consider the question of whether to meet twice in November as we get closer to that time. That's my understanding of the motion on the table. Is there any further discussion of that motion? If there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote on that motion. All in favor of the motion as just recited? Any opposed or abstaining? That motion carries. The part 2 is to set the time and location of the annual town meeting to be held per charter on the second Monday of May.
In the past, it's usually done here at the community center at 7 p.m.
I move that we do it here in the community center at 7 p.m.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion on item 2 to set the time and location of the annual town meeting? Seeing no further discussion, is there any other consideration that we need to
That's perfect.
Give it to that? All right, excellent. Then I will call for a vote. All in favor of setting that the time as 7 p.m. and the location as a community center, signal by raising your hand. Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, that carries. Part 3, to adopt the Town of Fairfield Town Council administrative policies and fee schedule for 2019.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the Town Council administrative policies and fee schedule for 2019? I will extend to the town manager the opportunity to address anything if there's something in particular that Bill needs our attention.
There have been really no changes since the last time that we presented this to you at the last meeting. A lot of our adjustments at this time have been to continue to remove fees from various components of policies, so to make sure everything is included within our fee schedule and to point those policies towards that. Major revision was done to the solid waste piece in this, simply because of all the changes since we were members of PERC, and now we have contracts with Waste Management, so all of those pieces were done. Other than that, there were not any really large ones. Social media, remember, we needed to include the app that the police department now has, because we didn't have anything to do with those kind of technology pieces. But other than that, I think that's pretty much it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed or abstain? Seeing none, that carries. Part 4, appointments made by the town council as listed in A4 attached. And I will just note a note on parliamentary procedure for this and other nominations. If you move this list, you are moving it as written, and we can discuss and amend that. However, if there are no amendments, we can pass the list as written without going through each item. If you want to make amendments, you are welcome to do so. I'm just letting you know we're not going to read out every name if there are changes. So is there a motion to move to consideration of list A4?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion on consideration of list A4? This is our public access officer, town attorney, and town manager. Seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving list A4 as written? Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, item 4, list A4 is adopted as amended, or not as amended, as read. As printed, I guess. Sorry. Part 5, to confirm appointments made by the town manager. This is list B5 attached to your packet. Is there a motion to adopt list B5?
So moved.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion of list B5? And I will remind you that you are allowed to make amendments if there are particular items on the list that you want to amend. We certainly can do that.
I just want to say something. Does some of these need qualifications every year to hold these positions?
Yes, so this essentially is the list of all of our town staff.
Okay.
So, and a lot of our positions require formal appointments. It's a state law requirement. So, yeah, it's just, and that is essentially what this is. Other than, there's a few part-timers who don't have titles. They just work for the town. But this is essentially the list of all of our staff.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, I will call for a vote on approving appointments made by the town manager in list B5 as printed. All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, list B5 is adopted as printed. We'll move on to part 6, to appoint the town councillors as members of the General Assistance Fair Hearing Authority. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? And I will just say that the General Assistance Fair Hearing Authority is the sort of last line of appeal in the municipal setting for applications for general assistance. Town councilors can be called upon individually to hear those appeals if and when it happens, and traditionally we've kind of rotated through that the few times that it's come up. So it is one of our lesser known responsibilities as town councilors. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing no further discussion, I will call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, item 6 is approved. Item 7 appoints 3 representatives to the KRDA First Park General Assembly. Are there any nominations for representatives to the KRDA First Park General Assembly?
I nominate Michelle Fullerman.
There's 3. We have 2 members and an alternate.
Shall I do another one?
You can nominate all 3 of them at the same time.
Okay, I nominate John Pisciotti, Mr. Munson, or Mrs. Munson, whoever. Mr.
Thomas.
Munson, and Michelle Fullerman.
And for purposes of clarity, is it Thomas Munson
Yes,
that
it
you're
is.
nominating?
Sorry.
All right. So we have a nomination for John Pisciotti, Thomas Munson, and Michelle Flewelling. And are we going with the list with Michelle as the alternate?
It makes never mind.
It
doesn't matter.
Okay.
I actually sit on the executive board, just so that y'all are aware. I'm also an executive board member, so not just a member of the General Assembly, because I chair their design review committee. So
Would it be Thomas Munson would be the one then?
I'll ask, is there
the way that it works, let me just explain a little bit of how it works. So the town of Fairfield, based upon its population, receives 2 votes on the General Assembly. Okay, so that's when the entire group of all of the towns meet. And the alternate only attends if one of the other 2 cannot be there. So I always attend the meeting, so if John or Tom isn't there, then I have voting rights during the General Assembly meeting. If they're both there, then I just don't vote during the General Assembly meeting. But as part of the executive board, I'm still very heavily involved in the organization.
Got it. Thank you.
So Beverly, is your nomination as listed in list C13?
Yes.
All right. Is there a second to that nomination?
Second.
All right. So there's a nomination for John Pisciotti, Thomas Munson, and Michelle Flewelling as an alternate for the KRD First Park General Assembly. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of those 3 being elected? And that is 4 in favor. Any opposed? Any abstentions? 1 abstaining. So John Pisciotti, Thomas Munson, and Michelle Flewelling are appointed to the KRD First Park General Assembly. Our next item is Part 8, appoint 2 municipal officers as representatives to KV COG. Do I hear any nominations for that position?
Michelle Fullerman and Courtney Chandler.
Is there a second?
Second.
I hear a nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations? Probably should have asked that last time too. Seeing no other nominations, I will open this for discussion. Is there any discussion on this nomination? Seeing none, all in favor of approving Michelle Flewelling and Courtney Chandler? Any opposed? Any abstaining? 1 abstention. So that passes. Part 9, appoint the town manager and 2 town councilors to serve on the Labor Negotiations Committee. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Aaron Rowden and Michelle Fullerman. And is he also there as well?
So that 3rd position was filled by Chairman Taylor.
Yes.
Former Chairman Taylor,
Yes.
sorry, and where he's gone, so now that there's a vacancy. So I believe based on this list, that means that John has indicated that he is interested in serving on that committee.
So I nominate John Bisciotti as well.
Is there a second?
Second.
So there's a nomination and a second. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, I will close the nominations. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor of Michelle Llewellyn, myself, and John Bisciotti to serve as the Labor Negotiations Committee? It's 3. Any opposed? Any abstentions? 2 abstaining, so that passes. Number 10, to appoint a member of the Town Council as representative to the MSAD number 49 Crawford Committee. Do I hear any nominations?
I nominate Courtney Chandler.
I hear a nomination for Courtney Chandler. Is there a second? Do not hear a second. So that nomination does not succeed at this time. Are there any other nominations? I hear no nominations. I am going to table this item for now, and we will have to come back to that. We are ultimately required to appoint someone to this
deadline on
position. I'm actually not going to table it to another meeting. I'm going to table it until the end of our council agenda and before the workshop items to come back to it, because that is something that we will need to sort out. So that will be coming back off the table before we leave today. I will move on to number 11, to appoint the town manager as a representative to the Sustain Mid-Maine Coalition. Do I hear a nomination on the question of the Sustain Mid-Maine Coalition? And Michelle, for clarification, is this nomination says to appoint the town manager? Is that a requirement?
Yes.
Okay. So there's only one possible legal nomination.
So she's on it.
Well, we still have to do the formality.
So moved.
I hear a nomination. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. I hear a nomination and a second. As no other nominations would comport with our legal obligations with respect to this organization, nominations are closed. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of appointing Michelle Llewellyn? That vote passes unanimously. Any opposed, any abstained? All right, passes unanimously. And number 12, consider vacancies and make appointments to the various boards and committees listed in C13. We're now going to get really into the weeds because we'll have to do this separately as well. So I'll start with the top of the list. The board under consideration is the Board of Assessment Review. There is an application by Jeffrey Neubauer for this position. Do I hear any nominations?
So moved.
Second.
So is that a motion and a second for Jeffrey Neubauer?
Yes.
All right. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, nominations are now closed. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, Mr. Neubauer is appointed. The next committee is the Budget Committee. This is we're nominating. Looks like we're nominating 4 3-year terms and 1 2-year term to the Budget Committee, and I will recognize the clerk to give us
3-year.
It's 3 3-year terms and 1 2-year term.
The 2-year term is to fulfill Richard Fortier's resignation.
Okay.
The 3, we had 4 coming off, but when the charter was redone, the number of budget committee members was reduced from 12 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
So every year we have 4 resign and we only appoint 3 until we get to the 9.
Okay. So there are 3 3-year terms and 1 2-year term.
Yeah.
All right. So.
And Andrew Strukoff was not interested in returning either, so it worked out perfectly.
All right. So our it looks like currently I'll read out Zachary Golder, Kimberly Hawks, and Jeffrey Marshall have indicated interest in returning to the Budget Committee for 3-year terms. There is also a new applicant, Veronique Carrier. We can, and to be clear, we can nominate them in any combination we like, or other people if we so choose. So we're not bound by these lists, but they are there for our guidance. So do I hear any nominations for the Budget Committee? And please specify which terms of office you are nominating individual people.
I will nominate, actually I'll nominate Zachary Golder, Kim Hawks, Jeff Marshall, and Veronique Carrier.
Okay, and which terms of office, basically
The
who
terms that
are
are listed.
So,
3 years and 1 2 year.
all right, so is Veronique the 2-year term?
Yes.
All right, so I have the motion for Zachary Golder, Kimberly Hawks, and Jeffrey Marshall for the 3-year terms, and Veronique Carrier for the 2-year term. Is there a second?
Second that.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, the nominations are closed. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the motion, please signify. Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, that motion carries. The next item is the Economic and Community Development Committee. There are 3 seats up on this. It looks like there are 2 people who have chosen not to continue on and 2 people who are interested in continuing on. Mark Hume is interested in continuing, or is chosen, or is elected to continue on if we give him another term, and those interested are Peter Lawrence and Stephanie Thibodeau. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Stephanie.
Sorry, I'm going to recognize the clerk just to give us...
Just a point of order. Now that Peter Lawrence is a counselor, you have the one counselor already. John's term isn't over, and he is the counselor that's appointed to this committee. So in the event that John's term ends, that's when the availability would come up for the council member.
Okay. I have a question then for the town manager. Is there a prohibition on a councillor sitting, or is it just that there's 1 seat set aside for the council?
It's just that there's 1 seat set aside
so
for the council. So
still
there's
have-
no, I'm not aware of a prohibition of
Right.
it being a conflict of interest for them, other than the fact that the conflict of interest that comes from appointing yourselves to your own committee.
Okay.
Yeah, there's never been, I've been involved in that since the very beginning of it. There's never been a prohibition. We just...
Right.
And they're still
So
open to the public.
And this committee doesn't have decision-making capabilities
Right,
anyway.
It can't commit funds.
It can't commit funds or anything. It can
Yeah.
only give forth recommendations.
Then
So you could put as many people on it.
I will say...
And it has there's no limit to its number either. You can have as many appointments as you would like to have.
Right. It is, then in the opinion of the chair, that if Mr. Lawrence is nominated, I would consider that nomination to be in order.
Yes.
I was going to make a nomination as well. So I still can, correct?
Absolutely.
Stephanie Thibodeau.
All right, so nominating Stephanie Thibodeau.
I am.
I have a nomination for Stephanie Thibodeau. Would anyone like to nominate the other 2 on the
Yes.
list, or any
I
other
will
people?
nominate Mark Hume and Peter Lawrence.
All right, do you object to their nomination? Can we combine it into one motion?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so there's one motion for Mark Hume, Peter Lawrence, and Stephanie Thibodeau.
I had to think about it for a minute.
Keep
but
with
yes.
us, folks. We'll get
Is
there.
there a second to that motion?
It's our organization meeting. We
I
gotta
know.
organize.
I know.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Do you want a second? Well, she also
Okay,
cut
second.
it, so. Well, I'm going to consider it Beverly's motion and your second, if that's all right, just for bookkeeping purposes.
Thank you.
I just had to think about it.
Now, are there any other nominations? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote on the nominations of Mark Hume, Peter Lawrence, and Stephanie Thibodeau. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Abstain.
1 abstention. That carries. The next item is the Land Use Board of Appeals. There are 2 seats. One is a 5-year term and one is a 5-year alternate. It looks like both of the current office holders are willing to continue on, and there is not a new applicant note on here, so I will open nominations for the Land Use Board of Appeals.
I will nominate Bruce Harrington and Veronique Carrier.
And
Second.
as listed on here?
As listed.
All right. So that is for Bruce Harrington for the Land Use Board of Appeals and Veronique Carrier as the alternate to the Land Use Board of Appeals. That's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, or are there any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote. All in favor of the nomination? That is unanimous. That will carry. And the last one, or the last of this top part of the list is the planning board. These are 5-year terms for a planning board member and an alternate. There, the two current holders of these positions are willing to continue serving on the board, and there are no new applicants. I will open the floor to nominations.
Nominate Charles Matthews and Jeffrey Marshall.
And
So,
as written.
written.
All right.
Second.
And that is moved and seconded. That is Charles Matthews for a 5-year term and Jeffrey Marshall for a 5-year term as an alternate. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, that carries. I believe that leaves us now with just returning to item number 10, to appoint a member of the town council as representative to SAE 49 Crawford Committee. I will reiterate, we do have to make some sort of appointment to this committee.
I will nominate Peter Lawrence.
All right, I have a nomination for Peter Lawrence. Yes.
I apologize, but I was told that that was a conflict because he has a family member that works for the school.
Liberty, my wife's on the school board, the directors. The Crawford Fund, she's not involved in the Crawford Fund. The chair of the school board is on the Crawford Fund. So my wife is not in part.
Is not a part of it?
No.
I don't know what the degree of separation is for that.
I think it's still a conflict of interest.
I don't know.
That's pretty close.
So this is a question that MMA Legal is probably competent to answer for us. How imperative is it that we appoint somebody to the Crawford Fund tonight?
You can, it's not imperative that you do it
I
tonight.
have another nomination as well, though.
Okay.
Are we accepting it?
I am certainly going to accept nominations. I just wanted to, I wanted to find out, as a point of information, how quickly we have to do this if the. So we have
It's not
information.
until, it's February and March that the Crawford
Okay.
Fund is busy, so we just recently finished with what the Crawford Fund amount is for the year. The calculations haven't all been done, so to send to them. Due to the market, it's not going to be pretty, but it won't be until, I think it's usually a March meeting that the counselor needs to attend when they present their budget, I believe is when it is.
So, as it is my understanding that it is the responsibility of each council member to sort of police their own conflicts of interest, and it is to some degree a political question as to whether we make an appointment, and it's up to the appointee to decide whether they have a conflict. I will accept the nomination, the motion to nominate, and if there's a second, I will consider Mr. Lawrence to be in contention. The nominations are also still open. You can nominate as well. So I'll first deal with this nomination. Is there a second on the nomination of Peter Lawrence? As there is not a second, that nomination is not going to move forward for now. I will take your nomination.
And I'm going to nominate Courtney Chandler again.
All right, and there is another nomination for Courtney Chandler. Is there a second? All right, as there is no second on either of the nominations, at this point, unless there is another nomination, I'm going to table this to our next meeting unless there is a nomination coming
So
forward.
let's try this. I nominate John Pishotti then.
All right, there's a nomination for John Pishotti. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a nomination and a second. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. I will call the question. All in favor of John Pishotti? That is 2. Any opposed? And I'm actually going to vote no on this one. Sorry. And any abstaining? 2 abstaining. So that is 2, 1, and 2. So that nomination doesn't carry, and for anyone who's wondering, I voted no, so there would at least have been a quorum voting other than abstaining. Is there any other nomination at this time?
Does it have to be a council person?
I believe that it does.
Yes.
It
I'll
does.
double check the policy, but I
That-
believe
that
it
is
absolutely
correct.
does.
Yes,
It has
it
to be a
does.
council person. So if you table it till your next meeting, we'll double check the conflict of interest piece, and maybe folks will feel a little bit more comfortable about it, and you can, but it will need to move at your next meeting, so be prepared for that.
So at this point, nominations are still open, but if there are no nominations, I'm going to table this to our next meeting. Are there any further nominations?
Can the chair be nominated?
Chairman Taylor served on the committee, so yes, the chair can be
Nominate
nominated.
Aaron Roden, then.
There is a nomination for Aaron Rudden. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a nomination and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? One opposed. And I am going to abstain. Are there any two abstentions?
Oh, there you go.
So
I tried.
I think at this point, other than Councilwoman Busk, if you want somebody to put your name in nomination, we have nominated everybody else at the
No,
table.
I can't nominate myself, I don't think.
I actually believe you can nominate
can
yourself.
nominate
as long as
yourself.
somebody will second it.
I don't think I'm gonna get a second, though.
Okay.
Well, let's
So
just skip it.
let's agree that if there is no objection to proceeding this way, we'll table this to our next meeting. I would appreciate if the town manager could inquire with MMA Legal about the conflict of interest question, and then perhaps we can come together on this issue again next time.
I'll get it to you as soon as I have it.
So that concludes our organizational meeting business. So we will move on to our 8th order of business, which is the council workshop and other business. And item 1 is to discuss the annual town report dedication. So, does anyone have any ideas on the town report dedication?
You did receive a memo that includes who we have dedicated it to in the past.
Yep.
And then we'd be looking for ideas for this year going forward.
They're at the bottom of the list, and it would go on as an action item at your next meeting.
Yep. So at our last staff meeting, we discussed it to get ideas at that as well. So there's Douglas Matthew, Richard Fortier. There was a conversation about the fact that where we have a number of staff retiring this year that have, some of them worked for the town for 35 plus years. You know, would it be, instead of singling them out, you'd just do a general dedication to the staff was what that conversation turned into. But the idea is yours. It's up to you. And you don't have to make a decision tonight either. Just remember, it's just for discussion. So that will also be coming, that deadline will be coming soon, so.
Any further discussion on the annual report dedication? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 2 to discuss the annual Spirit of America Award dedication. Now open for discussion.
Yeah, I like Kim as
I do too.
that she has done a lot for the town. She's very much involved in everything, and
I second that.
I think that would be a good award for her.
So I guess I'll just, workshop being less formal than the meeting, I'll just ask, is there a consensus around this, or is that where we want to go?
Yeah, I think so.
And if so, I would entertain a motion now to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, the motion carries. And item 3, to discuss code of conduct, council checklist, and council meeting procedure brochure.
This is your standard code of conduct. There's been no amendments to this. This is the one that was adopted last year, the year prior.
So
And
I
this
do have-
also gets included with all of our appointments, so it's not just our elected officials. It does go on the backside. I believe it was in 2016 where we changed it so to make sure that it was included with every single one of our appointments for all of the folks that represent us on various different boards and committees.
And just so we know, how is that being received by people who have been appointed? Have there been any comments on it, or?
No, I don't think so. I haven't received any feedback. Have you?
No, well, any feedback I did receive was positive. That
Okay.
Yeah.
people have said that they felt that that was actually a great thing
Right.
to have in place.
Excellent.
No questions or anything. I mean, we have had the opportunity where we've needed to sometimes remind some folks about this, but it hasn't really been a big issue at all. It really hasn't turned into anything, so it's been good.
Excellent. Are there any other discussion on these items? Code of conduct, council checklist, and council meeting procedure brochure? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, to discuss town council goals and standards for 2019. So this is our opportunity to start setting our goals and laying out how we're going to meet them for the year.
So the draft that you have in front of you are just where we've done the updates for the progress on the various different goals, but the goals themselves are virtually the same.
Just do the best we can, right?
Well, innovate in sustainable solutions for lowering taxes will stand the test of time.
Okay.
So if we are generally satisfied with the goals and standards that we have laid out, I would entertain a motion to adopt them. If we want to bring this back for additional goals and standards to be added or things to be amended, I think that we could keep this on the workshop for another meeting or so to give people an opportunity to wrestle with this.
No, I think
It's
what we
actually-
have
I think it's good.
is
It's
good.
scheduled for an action item for your next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we will take action on it at our next meeting, and if that's acceptable, if people want to keep working on it, we can keep it as a workshop item. All right, then we will plan to take action on our goals and standards. And part 5, any other council business, and I will start with Mr. Lawrence. Do you have any business you want to bring up tonight?
No.
Councilwoman Busk?
Not tonight.
No.
Councilman Chandler? Well, I just want to, take this opportunity to thank all of you for vesting me with your confidence in my abilities as chair, and I hope to serve well, and I want to welcome Mr. Lawrence to the council, and I look forward to working with you this year.
And thank you for the nomination for co-chair. I appreciate that as well. Thank you.
And with that, if there's no other business, the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be held on Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. here at the council chamber. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to recess.
Motion to recess.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no objection, the council is now recessed.
I hope everybody brought